Hi guys, Mark here, MMR Trains and More. Hey, thanks for stopping back again today. We upload every Wednesday, and so if you're not a subscriber yet, consider doing that. Otherwise, stop on back. Two things today, sand towers and why I was disheartened after that last video. What made me sad? Well, we're going to find out today. Sand towers and turntables, here we go. Before the operating session, I was mentioning about the sanding tower. Well, here it is, finished off, and quite happy with it. Like I said, if I spent more than $2 or $3 on it, I'd be surprised. This was a grab bag of parts from a swap meet that I attended a few months ago, and the sew line seemed to have a kind of a standard design. I didn't follow that for this project, and it was just a lot of fun to build, and as you can see, it worked into the scene here in Manitowoc quite nicely. And we have a small diesel fuel facility here now. And there's a coaling tower, as you can see, that came off of a fellow's layout that belongs to society or belonged to the society, passed away. And I was lucky enough to purchase the layout and take it down for his widow. And, you know, kind of the buildings and such all found new homes. And the ones that I wanted to keep, why, they're serving their time out down here on this Manitowoc branch. The reason I was disheartened in the last video is just to the right of this picture, and that is a roundhouse and a turntable. Nothing wrong with the roundhouse, but the turntable was the problem child. I don't know about you, but I've always had a love-hate relationship with these turntables through the years. The early ones, not really user-friendly at all. I eventually bought a diamond scale turntable that worked fine, at least in my instance here. I'm still using it here at Neenah. Very close to the aisle, very easy for the operator to line it up on a typical jog switch, and no problems with that. Here in Manitowoc, it would have required an indexer of some sort, but more important than that, I figure, is that no one really offers a shorter turntable. Now the Walther ones I think are the nicest ones available right now and probably easiest to use. I have a friend that has the biggest version. What is it, 120 feet, 130 feet, but you know, he's turning Yellowstones and big steam. The sew line never had any of that. I decided to follow an article that was, I believe, an RMC, using an Atlas turntable for basically the drive, and then building up around that turntable, using the floor, or the deck if you will, as kind of a spot to attach a basic traditional girder looking and pit turntable with that pit wall around the outside. Once you glue that girder to that table, if you will, that floor that rotates on that Atlas tabletop, I call it, turntable, yeah, the floor, the ground rotates, which, you know, obviously you don't want. So the fella decided that a false floor could be built on top of that Atlas rotating tabletop deck, and then, you know, solve all the problems one fell swoop. Basically build up a center plug, and then the rest would be scenic. And then you could put in a pit rail, and you could do all the fun little things that would make it more prototypical. And so he never did finish that part of the article as far as I know, but at the time I decided to do that, and it worked great. It was a nice looking thing. The pit rail, none of that had anything to do with electricity, no overhead on it. The power came off of the rails, if you will, on that Atlas flat top turntable. Just run 2 wires up the bridge. You know, the whole thing rotates around. There are no wipers. That's all done for you by Atlas underneath this product. So works out great. Problem is, I didn't give myself any provision to remove the turntable in case of troubles. You know, it's a band drive motor setup on it. After 20 years, it gave up the ghost. I was shocked in that it had been installed for 20 years, and even more shocked I didn't leave an access area for me to get a screwdriver in to lift the unit out somehow and, replace the band, or better yet, position the darn thing in such a way on the layout here that I could change out the band or the motor drive easily, via the backdrop. This all went down after the guys had left from the operating session, and my brother and I were running the layout, finishing up the jobs, and I go to turn my SD9 on the turntable, and blammo, the rubber band breaks, and everything breaks loose. So out comes the chisel and the big hammer and everything else that's needed to remove things that are kind of permanently screwed to the benchwork. Long story short, it is back installed. It does work. It's a little noisier than it was because I changed the drive setup around. I used Northwest Shortline universals in that motor instead of the rubber band. I have to adjust the speed on it if I want it spinning a little bit faster than I'd like. But I was silent beforehand, and because it's self-indexing at certain stops, as Atlas lays it out to work with their, well, now they have a roundhouse that it works with, but at the time it had, I don't know how many degrees rotation it would go, but it would do that, stop for a few seconds, and then continue on. Well, you can imagine if you're a new operator, these turntables have been around since dirt, but most people, didn't buy them or are not familiar or can't remember how they work. Take your pick. So when the locomotive is turning and all of a sudden it stops turning and yet the guy hears the motor running, they think that there's a problem. They turn it off. They'll come to me, hey, the turntable don't work. Well, I know it works. Just let it do its thing. It's kind of unprototypical, which it is, but it is self-indexing. And more importantly, it provided me the right length turntable. Even a 90-foot turntable here is way too big, but I did make it so that it's easily removable now. But if you're building a layout, keep that in mind. I guess that's the bottom line here. Learn by my mistakes. One thing you can tell from the last video, I'm not afraid to share my mistakes, and there's a lot of them. When you build a big layout, you're going to have a lot of mistakes. Hopefully they're overcome. So far we've been able to do that, but you never know if we run into something that's going to stump the old operator here. So thanks for watching. We'll be back next week with another video. More building. Maybe we'll continue at Manitowoc. Maybe we'll move on to Oshkosh. All up in the air yet, but lots of projects over winter to come. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Now, if you would be so kind to subscribe to my channel, I'd appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in today, and we'll see you down the rails.